Hello. How are we all? Apparently trying to work out this Twitter thing. There we go. Waiting for these fucking notifications to show up. So, 3 concurrent viewers. Yeah, I don't think this time is the best time for me to be streaming. Well, it's the best time for me to be streaming. It's not the best time to be streaming for my audience. Oi, I'm doing well, mate. Yourself? Reddit is down and Spectrum sucks. Yeah, the Reddit blackout is, I don't know if it's achieving the effect that the people who have decided to make all their Reddits private. I don't think it's achieving the effect that they're looking for. Because, in essence, what they've done is just punish their user base. But, you know, it is what it is. It'll be over soon. Yeah. That's one of the things that I didn't like about it either, was that it was just forced upon all of us. Even if we didn't really care or wanted to agree to it, we just made to do it. Yeah. And even then, like, the pages that have decided to black out, there's still, like, hundreds of thousands of other pages that are still up, and they're still running. Alright, well, I'm gonna get started on this stream and moving into the crux of what this reaction stream is actually going to be about, because I'm jumping on that good old bandwagon and looking at Starfield. I wasn't gonna do it. Hey Amiro. I wasn't gonna do it because I've already watched the gameplay deep dive. That's what we're going to be looking at first. I wasn't going to do it because it was pretty much something that everybody else had been doing, and they keep, you know, like Spectrum is, or was on fire comparing Starfield and Star Citizen. But after watching the deep dive the first time, I was kind of, I wouldn't say angry, I'd say more frustrated with the state of Star Citizen. And I want to go back through this deep dive and watch, you know, what they talk about. And while I was watching it the first time, there was similarities that I saw, but it wasn't to Star Citizen. Like, there was certain things in Starfield that you could do in Star Citizen. And a lot of things that are in Starfield that you can't do in Star Citizen, but if you look at another game, it pretty much is Starfield already. And it's Starfield before Starfield was even announced. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in the as the stream goes on. But what we're going to do, strap in, we're going to be going over the gameplay deep dive. Now, I'm not going to watch the entire 45 minutes straight because there's parts of it, like the quest side of things, that's more to do with like single player and PvE based stuff. But there are parts of it that I do want to talk about as we go through, because they're key components that are missing from Star Citizen that I believe that if CIG focused on incorporating these particular features, they could focus less on trying to get AI to work and worry about that later. But let's get straight into this. We'll just start from the start. What are you guys' thoughts on Starfield anyway? Have you actually watched this trailer yet? Or the gameplay deep dive?
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to Bethesda Game Studios. You know, we've been so lucky over the decades to make the kind of games that we love here, and that's thanks to all of you. From the Elder Scrolls to Fallout, we love creating these worlds and playing in them just as much as you do. And throughout all that time, we'd often talk about and dream up the space game. What if we could take that feeling of being who you want to be and exploring a new world, but set it in space, where you weren't really limited in where you could go or what you could do? And that is Starfield. Obviously, we've come a long way since then with the game.
Somebody needs to do like a deep fake of Todd Howard there, but superimpose Chris Roberts' face over it. Then every time you mention Starfield, just change it to Star Citizen. That's pretty much the pitch that Star Citizen has.
Games we've built, our technology, and all of us here in the studio, we've done so much together, but well, we've never tried to make a game like this. Today, you'll get to hear from many on the team and see so much of what we think makes our game special. So let's jump in and take a look. Starfield is our first new universe in over 25 years, but it's still a Bethesda RPG through and through, where you step into a new world and you get that feeling of unlimited possibilities. But this time, it's not just one world. It's over 1,000 worlds. Because the choice of where to go, it's not ours, it's yours. And it wasn't until now that we had
Louis, that's why I'm actually pausing right now. We're going to play you guys a different video really quickly. All right. Watch this. So I think, you know, this kind of highlights my point, and there's this other video here too. I'm going to play this one, and I'm going to pause in a specific frame when I see it, because I'm pretty confident that I'm going to see it in this video. And then I'm going to scrub back. I'm going to go to, where is it? Where is it? Oh, we got too far.
A Bethesda RPG through and through, where you step into a new world and you get that feeling of unlimited possibilities. But this time, it's not just one world.
Well, you might get that.
It's over 1,000 worlds. Because the choice of where to go, it's not ours, it's yours. And it wasn't until...
Alright, I'm pausing on this frame specifically to show you guys this. Pay attention to that creature right there. We're back on No Man's Sky. If you didn't notice the transition. Fuck did my cursor go? Really? So, one of the running themes that you guys are going to see pretty much throughout this, and Louis, you've picked up on it already, but I would say that Starfield is less closer to Star Citizen and more closer to No Man's Sky. And you look at this frame here, and let's go back to this one over here. Like, it's the same idea, the same concepts. I can guarantee you that Bethesda didn't fucking handcraft every single one of these creatures. Guarantee it. That's all procedurally done, and then they've gone through and tweaked them. Just like how Hello Games did it. And this trailer is from 9 years ago. So 2014. Ironically, Starfield, apparently, the concept of it started around, what was it, 2010-ish, around there. Like, they'd always talked about it, but they started working towards actually building it up around 2010-ish. And then apparently, like, I was looking into it, I was trying to find, you know, proper sources, but the latest rumors about its development timeframe is 8 years of active development by Bethesda to get it to the release point. 8 years. Which means that they would have started in 2015, a year after No Man's Sky was announced. And since it's been released, which I believe was, can't even remember the release date, 2016 apparently? Yeah, 2016. So, since 2016 to now, they've been constantly releasing patches. All the time. Constantly releasing patches. That's Hello Games for No Man's Sky. Which is something that I'm pretty confident that Bethesda's not going to do. Not at the consistency that Hello Games does. But the modding community for Fallout and for the Elder Scrolls series is the reason why that Starfield will probably gain a lot more traction than what No Man's Sky would. So we're going to continue with the Starfield bloody trailer, because there's, well, this gameplay deep dive, because there's things in this that I see that I'm like, Star Citizen should be focusing on more, and they just haven't been. And to be honest, I don't know, it doesn't feel like we know that Star Citizen, well, that CIG is developing 2 games in concert with each other concurrently. You got Squadron 42 and you've got Star Citizen, the MMO. And people who keep saying, oh, you know, like, you shouldn't be comparing Starfield to Star Citizen, you should be comparing it to Squadron 42. That's not right. Squadron 42 is a story-based, story-driven gameplay experience. Starfield has a story in it, but just like all the other bloody open world games that Bethesda has made, you don't have to focus on it. Whereas for Squadron 42, that is the focus. The story is the central part. Elite Dangerous? No, it doesn't even get it. It doesn't even manage to make it here. Like, this particular game doesn't compare with Squadron 42 because Squadron 42 is a story-driven gameplay experience, whereas Starfield has a story to drive it, but you don't have to focus on it. Squadron 42, you can't just go flying off to a different system, you can't just go flying off to different planets and do whatever the fuck you want. You can do that in this game, which is why it should be compared closer to Star Citizen than Squadron 42. Let's continue.
Till now, that we had the technology to create it. From the rocks at your feet, to the mountains in the distance, to the people and creatures that live in these worlds. That isn't just a backdrop. That moon is actually there orbiting the planet. Yes, you can visit it too. We realistically simulate the galaxy around you. Our next-generation lighting model uses real-time global illumination to light the world based on the type of star and the makeup of the planet's atmosphere. We also have an all-new animation system. And
the commentary on the global illumination, being made up of the planet's atmospheric system, or being influenced by it, that's something that Star Citizen's been doing for years. Like, when they started working on the 3.0 patch series, that was one of the feature sets that they introduced. There's a reason why the moons and the planets all have their different coloring tinges. It's not lighting artists going in there and tweaking the values. It's literally Stanton is being used, the star. Stanton is being used as the global illumination source, and then whatever the bloody chemical composition of the atmosphere of the terrestrial body that it interacts with, that creates the color. That's one of the things that, you know, like, these selling points that they're giving, the audience that's probably interacting with Starfield either doesn't know much about Star Citizen or has heard of Star Citizen and isn't that interested in it because it's not finished. With Starfield, you got this. So the points that they're going to keep bringing up are things like, you know, I will sit here and I'll be like, oh, Star Citizen already has that, which is why the comparisons to Star Citizen are more consistent than to Squadron 42. Squadron 42 will have those elements, but it's, you know, like, lighting artists could recreate that stuff as well.
of course, you can play it in third person, and you can play it in first person. We love exploration and rewarding it, but you do explore differently in this game given its scale. That usually involves
if anybody's played No Man's Sky, you will recognize this. This looks almost the same in terms of UI usability. icons pop up, you can scan things, it gives you information on the sides. So, microphone's trying to run away. So there's like what you guys are talking about there with the transitions between space and the terrestrial bodies. Apparently it's a cutscene. And, you know, there's going to be fast traveling in the game as well. They'll mention it throughout this deep dive. What we're going to see is that Bethesda, and they're known for doing this in Elder Scrolls and Fallout, is that they introduce traveling systems that cut out the monotonous part of the travel. So, you know, like, instead of spending 10 minutes running from one town to another, you know, every time, you got to get there first, but once you've unlocked the place, then you can fast travel. And that's the thing, is that what we're going to see with this game, I believe, is that it's so focused on the single player experience that convenience is always at, you know, the top, which is one of the things that you can't really do in an MMO for Star Citizen. You can't do convenience like that, because if somebody can just fast travel back to their ship, as Slippy's pointing out there, hello Slippy, somebody's just fast traveling back to their ship and you're a pirate and you're like aiming to ambush them and intercept them, and they just fast travel back to their ship and take off and fly away. It's like, alright, well, there goes my fucking gameplay. You know, being able to fast travel between planets and moons and things like that takes away gameplay opportunities that you'll never see in, you know, a game like Starfield, because it's a single player experience. They could do a whole dice roll thing and, you know, like, oh, you're getting attacked by another ship. But, you know, they probably won't, because that's not really a Bethesda thing.
Exploring an area you've landed in. You can collect resources.
Oh, look at this. This should look familiar.
Do a mission, and maybe even stumble upon something unexpected.
I want to see that stuff in Star Citizen. You know, we're wearing jetpacks and you accidentally shoot the tank and it just fucking blows them away.
And you can view all that in your data menu. This is the hub for everything you're doing, from your skills to your ship, your missions, and your inventory. We love to pack a ton of detail.
There's no real comparison between 3. I literally, like 5 minutes ago, just showed No Man's Sky after doing a little bit of a show reel of Starfield. Like, if you made a realism mod for No Man's Sky, you pretty much have Starfield. Except instead of being able to take off and land on planets and moons as you please, you got to go through a cutscene in Starfield. And Starfield's more story driven. Because there's a story to No Man's Sky. You don't have to do it. At all. See, there's a lot that you can compare to all 3. And there's other games as well that you can throw into the mix, like X4 Foundations. Like, nobody mentions that one. doesn't have planetary landing, but it has a really complex trade and economy system, a highly complex background simulation system for the AI. It's interesting. Like, a lot of people are going, oh, Starfield's going to kill off Star Citizen, or, you know, like, Star Citizen's done. It's not. But there's elements that I'm seeing in this that frustrates me, because I'm like, if CIG had focused their efforts on one game instead of two and delivering what the people want. We don't talk about Elite Dangerous. Elite Dangerous doesn't even compare. Elite Safety, or just Elite. That's all it's called. It's just called Elite. Just become Elite. If CIG had focused on just one game, the one that made them money, and delivering on that, we would probably be a lot closer to having the same features that we're going to see in Starfield and games like No Man's Sky, Space Engineers, you know, Eve to a certain degree.
In every object, from all of your weapons.
But you look at this, like, and they talk about it later. Where is it? It's in the combat part, I believe. Keep watching anyway. But the weapon system, the customization for weapons, different damage types. You know, there's an interview where Sean Tracy is talking, and they were talking about, you know, like Star Citizen's development pipeline, and, you know, how far along would Star Citizen be if it wasn't in open development. So Sean Tracy turned around and said probably be about 18 months further ahead, because they wouldn't have to worry about doing polish as much to put the game out in front of an audience. Do I think Starfield will hurt Star Citizen long term? No. What will happen is that the audience that goes and plays Starfield when Star Citizen, you know, comes into their radar, which it will, they'll be like, why is this game taking so long to build in comparison to this one that we've got now? Like, where are the features at in this game? Where's the features from this game that's supposed to be in this one? And that's the thing, is like, you're going to see Starfield pick up in popularity. Well, like, people keep saying that Starfield's going to kill Star Citizen. That's not the case, because we've already got other games that are similar to Starfield. That's the point that I was making with the title as well. It's no Starman's Field Sky Citizen. You know, No Man's Sky is a closer comparison to what Starfield is than what Starfield is to Star Citizen. I think it will hurt CIG in the short term. And to be honest, you know, we all heard about how CIG took Squadron 42 off the store, and they said, oh, you know, like, you're getting a pricing update and things like that. It's like, I'm pretty confident that CIG became aware that Starfield's going to come out this year, and it's going to become a direct competitor against, you know, one of their flagship products, Star Citizen, in the sense that people are going to play Starfield. They're going to be like, all right, I've had enough of Starfield. Let's play something else. See Star Citizen and go, oh, I'll give this a go. And then encounter the buggy mess that it is and go, holy shit, I'm never going to play this again. So CIG needs to put out a product that they can prove to their audience, hey, you know, like, we can't make a game. You know, this one's still in development, but we've got this single player game that you can go and, you know, play. Starfield won't push the development further with Star Citizen. Star Citizen's locked. The problem that Star Citizen has is that it's got tech hurdles to overcome before you can really look at implementing additional feature sets. But it's frustrating because those tech hurdles are pretty much being used as the gatekeeper of being able to introduce a lot of other systems. I don't see the reason why they should be doing that. But that's just me. Anyway, we're going to continue.
To spacesuits, to food. We just obsess over the details, and food. We obsess over food. When you're done exploring, you can walk back or fast travel to your ship. We have companions and crew you can take with you. I left Vasco here back at my ship.
Welcome back, Captain Howard.
And he can even say your name. Let's head out.
Like,
Our mission was to convey the wonder and majesty of space exploration, to evoke the romance.
Starfield won't push Star Citizen's development along. It'll give them ideas. It's going to push Squadron 42 to get out sooner. Because, as I said before, CIG already has a product that's out in front of the public. It's just not finished yet, being Star Citizen. People are going to play Starfield, they're going to see it, and they're going to be like, oh, wow, you know, like, I like this game, but I want more. It'd be really cool if it was an MMO. So they start looking for mods, and then they come across Star Citizen. You know, we're talking about the user journey here. So they come across the Star Citizen, they're looking, they're like, oh, this looks cool. $45, that's a bargain. I'll pick that up and I'll start playing it. Oh, it's an alpha? It can't be that bad. You know? Then they play it and they're like, holy shit, what the hell? After coming from Starfield. Like, I see the potential, because that's what everybody sees. Everybody sees the potential of Star Citizen. It's really hard to see when you first see it. When you start playing it, you experience it, but when you see those bugs, it clouds it. And for a lot of people, they're not willing to wait around. They're not willing to sit there and go, hey, you know, like, oh, I'll just keep punching through. They're going to be like, this is garbage. And I can't believe that I paid money for this. So CIG pushing Squadron 42 out into the limelight and making that their flagship product, where they're sitting there going, this is the game that we've finished and we're working on the MMO part, which is over here, but it's still being developed. But if you want to play, you know, a fully finished game that's set in the universe that Star Citizen's in, this is the one that you want. And that'll tide people over for a bit. And then they'll probably bounce back to Starfield. And they'll be like, oh, you know, scratch that itch, go back to Starfield. And Star Citizen continues developing. They've got that money for people who have tried playing Star Citizen. You know, they've built confidence in their community and audience base that they can produce a game. It's just going to take time. And that's one of the things that I want to try and get across here is like, it is going to hurt Star Citizen in the short term, from the sense that people are going to play Star Citizen after seeing Starfield, and they're going to be severely disappointed by the state of the game, because they're going to be expecting certain things. You know, like, oh, this game has base building, why doesn't this one? And they don't care about the technical aspect. Like, that's something that a lot of backers don't seem to understand. Like, we're all bloody, you know, we must have something wrong with ourselves, because we'll sit there and we'll learn and we'll, you know, learn about the development pipeline and all that sort of stuff. But the majority of the consumer base doesn't care. They just want the product. And they're not going to care that base building isn't in because we don't have persistent, or we only just got persistent entity streaming and we're waiting on server meshing. They're going to be like, oh, so you're still waiting on features to be built out? Why did I pay money for this? I'll just come back when it's done. How long is that going to take? How long has this game been in development for? Holy shit. You know, we've been operating in the current iteration of this persistent universe, so the 3.0 patch series. Like, we're going into the bloody, was it 5th year? According to sources about how long Starfield's active development was done, you're looking at 8 years for that single player experience, and all the features that you'll see, like the weapon customization, food, bloody, all that sort of stuff, creatures, planets, moons. The shipbuilding system, let's skip over the questing stuff because that's all bloody PvE stuff. When they talk about factions and shit like that, Character creation, I'm not really bothered by. It's like, yeah, you can create a character. It's them talking about how comprehensive it is. You know, them, what is it? They mention about facial scans, you know, like scanning real people's heads and then blending it. Like, CIG's already been doing that. You know, them talking about skills. We're going to see something similar in Star Citizen, but it won't be utilized in the same way as the way that you would use it in a game like Starfield, because if we reference things like, you know, Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout, the skill system really did impact the way that you played the game significantly, whereas you got to be careful doing that in an MMO. Here we go. We're going to go to the ships. We're going to skip ahead to the ships. Now, you know, what they've done with their ship system, I believe, is something that CIG should be looking at for theirs. Stop worrying about trying to build like bespoke ships and give players agency over their creations.
Space exploration is possible thanks to your ship. Your ship is almost like having another character or home you can make all your own. I think you'll be blown away by the amount of stuff you can do. You can buy a ship.
I'm sure you can find something you like.
Customize and upgrade that ship. And hire a crew to keep it up and running. And it all starts in spaceports. Every spaceport has a ship technician where you can purchase, sell, and modify ships.
Anything I can help you with?
Maybe you start off with a speedy fighter that's perfect for bounty hunting. Then you might round out your ship roster with a hulking space freighter to run cargo missions, or even do a little smuggling. For now, though, we're going to take our starting ship, the Frontier, and make some changes. You can customize and upgrade everything you see here.
How much further along do you think Star Citizen's development would be if they made something like this? Where instead of having their teams build bespoke ships, they give us the components so that we can arrange them the way that we see fit. I personally think that if we're able to do this sort of stuff, we wouldn't need to worry as much about having to wait around for specific ships, because we could just build it our fucking selves. Like this particular system here, with how they've structured the modular shipbuilding system, I think is just the way that most space games should be going. The penis-shaped ships that people will make, yeah, okay. Like, so what? They want to fly around in a penis-shaped ship, just blow them up. But it's not that big of a deal in comparison to what we're dealing with now, where we're waiting on ships to be built out. And it's frustrating. You know, people are like, oh, I bought this specific ship. It's like, well, you know. And the problem is that the ship system that we have in Star Citizen, CIG had to commit to it because they were selling bespoke ships. So they've got to build them out, which is a problem. But they could have built them out in a way that could have been modular like this. Then gone, all right, these are the ships here, and this is a pre-built modular ship. So you're buying, you know, the Carrack, for example, which you would be able to recreate in this to a certain degree. You'd be able to recreate a Carrack. It wouldn't look exactly like it, but it'd be close. Alright, you can buy a pre-built Carrack. But if you don't like that, you can reconfigure it the way that you want. yeah, like, personally, I think we severely missed an opportunity here. And this is something that I'd like to see happen in a space game. There's others that kind of do it. Like, you can, what is it, Starbase? You can build your ship using voxels. Space Engineers, same deal. Imperium, same deal. So shipbuilding is not a new concept. But part of the reason why a lot of people don't like that shipbuilding is because it's too involved. Like, you're placing the beams and everything. I don't want to be placing fucking beams. I just want to grab a hab. It's like, oh, you know, this is the, you know, let's look, the fucking habitation module. Sweet. I'll grab that and I'll make that part of the ship. I want a cargo module. Well, in a game like Starbase, you've got to build the cargo module area and then put the cargo, module section in there. But you got to build a space for it and then put the cargo module section and then put cargo there. It's like, why can't I just have, you know, a module that's already pre-built? Yeah, this is one of the frustrations. You know, I see this in Starfield. I'm like, we'd probably be a lot further along in the development pipeline if CIG just went, we're going for a modular system, you know, like this. And then what we'll do for the ship sales is just sell pre-built modules or pre-built ships made up of these modules. And then in-game, the modules themselves make them bloody money sinks. Because I think this is, you know, really fucking cool to me.
And you have two ways to do that. You can quickly upgrade individual systems like your weapons or shields, or you can deep dive and enter the shipbuilder mode. Here you can change anything from the systems to the look and layout. Adding a new habitat module can give you more room for crew. Adding cowling can change your ship's overall silhouette. An improved grav drive allows for longer distance space jumps. You can even fully customize your paint job to get the exact look you want.
Like, this here is a Star Citizen feature that we should have. Changing the color of our ship to be whatever the fuck we want. When they talked about it at the start, in the early days of Star Citizen's development, but they've gone towards ship paints. They should keep the ship paint system. That's perfectly fine. Introduce the bloody, you know, patterns as well. But if we want to paint our ship specific colors, let us do it. Paint with a laser, spray brush, or whatever. Take it to a spaceport or a, you know, ship thing. I can't even remember what they called it. Let us take it to that. Where you can bloody do this particular thing and then change the colors however the fuck we want. Player agency, which is something that was supposed to be a selling point of Star Citizen. Seems CIG forgot about that along the way. And that's what frustrates me, is like, this game gets it. Fucking, you know, they've added it as a standard feature, and the game that we've all supported, that we were all hoping that we were going to get, that we were told that was going to be a thing, CIG's kind of just going quiet on it, coy, you know, like, people bring it up every now and again, and they're kind of like, oh, you know, like, we got these ship paint sales going on. Not good enough. That's one of the reasons why, like, this is how Starfield hurts Star Citizen, because you got a game that's got this particular feature here, and everybody that's looking at Star Citizen's going, why the fuck don't we have that? Like, how does the ship paint system tie in to server meshing and persistent entity streaming and all that sort of fucking shit? How is CIG able to release paints that don't get affected by the updates that they make every patch cycle. Because that can't be used as an argument. If they're able to release paint packs that bloody allow you to, you know, change the paint scheme on your ship, that is supposed to work between every single patch cycle. Well, why the fuck can't we have this? You know, the color slider, saturation, hue, saturation, brightness, and the different colors. You know, why don't we have that? You're not working on it, it's not a focus. You got plenty of time to communicate that shit to us. Like, you can't see it because of all the chat and stats at the bottom, but like you've got all this, you know, stats down here, and it changes based on, you know, the layout of the ship. Like, this frustrates me because we should have something like this in Star Citizen, but we fucking don't. That's because they're working on 2 games. And I've always had this argument. This is my point about Squadron 42. It should be taken a fucking, you know, it should be put in the background. You should be able to build Squadron 42 out of Star Citizen, not bloody build Squadron 42 and Star Citizen at the same time. Squadron 42 should be the afterthought. Even though it was the Kickstarter campaign, it's quite clear that the audience, the player base who was buying into Star Citizen, they're not spending $3,000 on a ship just so that they can, you know, look at it in Squadron 42. They're spending $3,000 on a ship so that they can fucking fly it in Star Citizen. The focus of the company should be on the product that people actually want instead of the fucking what the creator wants. And now what's going to happen is that they got a competitor, and people who sit there and say that, you know, like, Starfield's not a direct competitor. It's not in one way, but it is in others. Feature sets. That's where you got to look at it. Overall, the game, being single player, doesn't really compare to Star Citizen. But the features that you got in this game, people should be seeing this in Star Citizen. Because the paint system isn't reliant on fucking server meshing. And this is, you know, one of the frustrations. Let's keep watching.
The parts you choose to build with don't just affect your ship's stats. They'll also affect what you can do inside your ship. You can have modules for crafting, or for storing and displaying your weapons. Starfield's in-game ship manufacturers bring their own look and feel to every piece of your ship. From living quarters, to cargo holds, mess halls, and control rooms. Our modified Frontier is a practical ship, but with a little creativity, your ship can look like almost anything you want.
It's a bit odd, but one of my favorite ways.
Be right back. Now I'm back. There was just a package at the door.
Ways of customizing ships is I make them look like animals. The HMS Platypus, as I called it, where it had a giant tail to it. And we've done spiders, we've done mechs. So it's
Somebody's being either that's from a worker from CIG or somebody who was watching Star Citizen shit. And you know that Bethesda would have been tracking what Star Citizen was doing. So they're making this, like, this is Optimus Prime, apparently. You know, you saw, was it CIG's, was the Argo? I'm pretty sure it was. The, raft. Their Voltron made up of rafts. Yeah, this is a nod towards Star Citizen. I don't see a problem, like, people doing crazy designs. I don't see a problem with that at all.
really whatever your imagination is.
And while you can build your home among the stars the way you want to, you're probably not the only person who will call your ship home.
Ready to lift off when you are, Captain.
This is what those bloody Care Bears are fucking frothing over.
Frontier is fueled and ready, Captain.
Some of the members of Constellation can join you on your journey. These companions can serve on your crew, and they'll always be there when you travel.
We'll be traveling together until we either find an artifact or this lead runs dry.
Each companion comes with their own valuable skills for your ships and outposts, as well as unique quest lines.
This is 100% a Bethesda thing. And, you know, CIG, Chris Robertson said, you'll be able to have companions. And some of them may have, story arcs associated with them. And then you got to build up, I don't know exactly what they called it. But, I'm just going to use affinity. Reputation with them. Build up a rapport. By helping them out. Paying them, feeding them, housing them. Looking after them. Yeah, settlement is under attack. That's the thing about this is like, this is going to hurt Star Citizen. Like the PvE base of Star Citizen is going to go play Starfield. A lot. Don't blame them. And when they come back to play Star Citizen, they'll be like, this is trash. Because a lot of that PvE player base of Star Citizen, they're not really interested in Squadron 42 either. They're interested in the freedom of Star Citizen. Starfield gives them that. They could get it out of No Man's Sky as well. But I believe part of the reason why No Man's Sky hasn't been as popular is because of the artistic style. It's too cartoonish, too 1950s retro. As Louis said at the start, is this about Starfield? Is this the 4K No Man's Sky update? Right, that's the real problem that No Man's Sky actually has, because they have a large player base now. They had a shit launch, which affected them pretty badly, but the visual style of it isn't appealing. It's not appealing to the wider audience that they really should be targeting. Whereas this is, Star Citizen is, Elite Dangerous has that visual style too. EVE Online, push towards it. And yeah, Tokata, you're right. Like the modding, the modding that's going to happen with this, I guarantee that there's going to be some people, a group, that's going to try and make a multiplayer mod of Starfield. They will they'll try as hard as they can. Bethesda's going to take notice of that, and people are already making the commentary about this, is that you're going to see the Starfield MMO. What was it? You got the Elder Scrolls Online, Starfield Online. Bethesda would be stupid not to try and push in that direction. They're talking about it already? Yep. Scrubbing through. Don't really need to talk too much about the companions because they're the same in bloody Fallout and bloody the Elder Scrolls series. Let's talk about spaceflight though. Fallout 76 proves it will fail? Maybe. But then again, like, you could look at the Elder Scrolls Online and say, you know, counter with that. Like, one game not being the best and having a poor, you know, poor reception does not mean that it's going to fail. Look at No Man's Sky. It's still going. And it's one of the few examples that you can point towards where it's a game that recovered from being shit. And so long as Bethesda's paying attention to the lessons that they learnt from Fallout 76, you'll see Starfield take into its own. Let's look at spaceflight.
We're putting you in the cockpit of your very own spaceship and telling you that you can do pretty much anything. And that is really cool for us as developers. Spaceflight should be exciting and dangerous, and you should feel like you're in complete control every step of the way. We've extended that sense of control to ship combat. It's not about just hitting your triggers to fire your weapons. It's a complex dance between your piloting skills and our power allocation system. Boosting power to your engines will make your ship faster. Powering up the grav drives will shorten the amount of time it takes before you can make a jump. And moving your power to your weapons and shields means you're ready for a fight. You should always be on your toes because you're not alone out there.
Bingo. Hello. Have no idea if it's got 6 degrees of freedom of movement. I imagine it wouldn't actually. I think they'll try and stick to a more arcadey flight experience. Because they're going to be targeting a wider audience, and the audience that they're going to try and pull in are the ones that play games like Fallout and Oblivion, Skyrim, Morrowind, the Elder Scrolls Online. They're going to try and pull those audiences in. So they're not going to make the flight combat or the flight system too complex. And the complexity really is going to come from how you manage the systems by the looks of it. Because if you look over here, yeah, like, honestly, that's what I think it's going to be. It's just going to be like No Man's Sky style of flight combat. There's nothing wrong with that. Not for a game of this scale. Like, this system here of balancing your resources, this is actually more complex than Star Citizen already. Which is quite funny. Yeah, this is No Man's Sky flight combat.
Unlocking the targeting control system skill will allow you to zero in on specific subsystems of the ship you target. After destroying an enemy ship, you can loot the remains from your cockpit. You can always turn any ship that engages you into scrap. But you can also take a more personal approach by docking with the enemy vessel and boarding their ship.
This is the next thing that annoys me. Frustrates me, because I see this in Starfield, I'm like, this is how it should fucking be in Star Citizen.
Once you've taken control of an enemy ship, it's yours. Add it to your fleet and retrieve it at any spaceport. But space is way more than fighting for your life. Just like when you're planetside, there are plenty of sights to see and stops to make on the way to your next adventure. Like these massive star yards. Walk the halls, talk to the crew, maybe get talked into buying a whole new ship.
A civilian in my star yard. Let's see about getting you a proper ship, one worthy of you.
Maybe you'll dock with a gigantic battleship, like the UC Vigilance. Or rub elbows with the galaxy's wealthy elite.
Yeah, I don't think, Slippy, you're going to be able to go EVA out into just space whenever you want. Which kind of takes away some of the, excitement, but well, options as well. But at the same time, it's like, it's not a big deal to me. It just means that, it's a restriction that they put in there, probably because of technical reasons.
On a cruise ship fit for the stars. There are plenty of personal encounters to be had as well. You can hail any ship you come across to trade, swap info, or maybe even commit an act of piracy.
Let's do this.
When I'm playing, I generally go crazy. I definitely go like the more piracy routes. I want to take over ships. I'm going to board ships. I'm like, this is now mine. I steal all the sandwiches and put them, in my cargo hold that I have specifically for sandwiches. I don't want to play the hero, but I want to go out and just start taking things from people as quickly as possible.
Some strangers might be looking for a little human connection in the darkness of space.
Hello, stranger. I just finished cooking up some food. If you want to come on over, just pop on by.
Some of the best moments are the ones you discover on your own. The thing I love most about Starfield is that it is a Bethesda game through and through. It's really about going to strange new places, meeting interesting people, and getting sidetracked on zany adventures. Then realizing 2 hours later that you're involved in a completely new story.
You're human. We thought we were the only ones to leave Earth.
That DNA is so present here. It's in our random encounters, it's in our handcrafted quests, and it feels so cool to play it and just make your own path in this universe. There are over 1,000 planets out there.
Where is it? This frustrates me. Look how fucking good this space map is. Why the fuck is ours so shit? Like, this should be how our star map looks. Not the fucking trash that we got now. Like, this is a frustration point for me. Seeing this and the quality that this map is at, and people can keep sitting there saying, oh, but Star Citizen's not finished. Fuck, you could spend developer time on improving an interaction system, or a system that we interact with on a regular basis, so that it reflects the quality that we're looking for. You know, it just frustrates me looking at this. And then you look up here, and you can probably also interact with this mini map up there and click on these, you know, dots here, which represent the different moons, and you got the fucking sun there, planets, moon sitting above it, and it'll probably give you the option to navigate to it. Maybe when Starfield comes out, COG can put it to the PE. Honestly, I think it'd just be easier to make a multiplayer mod for Starfield.
There are over 1,000 planets out there, just waiting for you to visit. We want you to feel like explorers, breaking ground on new planets, exploring every inch of a mostly untouched galaxy. We want you to feel hopeful. We want you to feel this sense of awe and wonder, and sometimes a little fear. We're giving you a massive playground and a ton of toys, and just setting you free.
Hey everybody, we've shown you so much stuff, but we thought we'd just...
No one cares about this. Future feature creep. No, this is bloody Chris Roberts seen the stuff that he's talked about, that he said that he was going to do already in a game. So he's going to be looking at that and going, oh, shit. Like, somebody else beat me to it. Yeah, like, this game, like, I'm still undecided if I'm going to play it. Like, I like what they're doing here, but for me, I'm not a big fan of the solo play experience. Like, if this was an MMO, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna play the shit out of this. I'm gonna be a pirate in this game, and I'll be pirating fucking all the way through. I wouldn't forget about Star Citizen forever, but I probably wouldn't throw any money at it anymore. I'd be playing this game if it was an MMO. If it was an MMO, I would play this game and wait for Star Citizen to reach its realization, but it wouldn't get another fucking $1. Like, this game has everything that we're looking for in Star Citizen, except the multiplayer side. And some players are okay with that. I'm not. I want multiplayer. I want an MMO. I want this as the MMO. But it looks good. Like, that's the thing. Like, the visual style that they're going for, I'm happy with. It doesn't look like a fucking cartoon. Yeah, well, Carlos, that's the thing. This game is closer. I said this earlier, but this game is closer to No Man's Sky than it is to Star Citizen. Which is why, like, you know, if No Man's Sky had made their graphics look closer to realism as opposed to their retro 50s, you know, stylistic art style that they went for, they would probably have a larger audience base already. Yeah, like, I've always been curious, like, I'm going to go over the exploration side of things here, because a lot of players, you know, in Star Citizen, they want to do exploration. It's like, what the fuck do you expect to do in exploration? Yeah, Dingo. Well, this is obviously a Bethesda game, so it's more focused on, you know, the player having a storyline that they, you know, can do, plus all the side quests, whereas No Man's Sky just had the story and then do whatever the fuck you wanted, but the story wasn't even the focus. And the story was literally just get to the center of the universe to, you know, learn the secret. Whereas Starfield, it's actually got, you know, a story. It seems to be something along the same lines as what Mass Effect did, where there's an ancient civilization that left all these artifacts behind, and you got to go find it, and then you discover alien technology that, you know, gives you abilities beyond anything that everybody could understand, and, you know, it's hinted at the end as well.
Studios world. It's a Bethesda Game Studios galaxy. So why go this big with Starfield? Because we want to give you freedom on a galactic level. The freedom to experience both the exciting planets and the quiet ones. Scanning a planet before you land is a great way to get a sneak peek at the available resources you can use for
This frustrates me. Being able to scan planets and moons. Why the fuck can't we do this? Because the game's not, you know, Star Citizen isn't finished yet. It doesn't support it. What do you want about? Why does it not support it? Why is it not being built in at the bloody base level? So that you can have, you know, this visualization of where resources are. You don't understand, Dingo? Yeah, I know, it's hard to believe. But the reason why the scanning's working here is because it's a single player bloody game. But this is reminiscent of fucking Mass Effect and EVE Online. This is frustrating looking at this, and it's like, why the fuck isn't this in Star Citizen yet? Oh, that's right. We've got Squadron 42. Oh, this is what happens when you don't build 2 games at fucking once. And you're able to dedicate studios and resources to a game. It's frustrating because CIG is also building, you know, has been building up their studios for years now. But yeah, like, I see this and I'm frustrated, and, you know, I do blame Squadron 42 as being a contributing reason why we don't have features like this that are a lot further along.
for crafting, building, and customizing.
I think what's cool about this whole system that we generate the planet itself as a procedural content, but the handcrafted content itself comes as the player explore. Our system builds the planet as the player approaches it. We stitch together a block of terrain. After that, we have the system that adds interesting locations for the player to explore, creatures to encounter, ore and plants to pick up. It allows us to add that touch of environmental storytelling that Bethesda is known for.
Aggressive creatures have been disrupting our experiments. Their habitat isn't far from here. If you could take care of them for us, we would be in your debt.
So even if your friends were to visit the same planet that you had, you would have a different story to tell.
So one of the things, and this is something that they don't talk about, but I'm curious, is that you've landed at this scientific outpost, and they've talked about the landing from going from space to planet side as being a cutscene. Is it when you get to the planet side? Is it like points of interest that you land within, and you got like a 30 by 30 kilometer map or something like that, or is it literally you go from space into atmosphere and then you can just travel anywhere on the planet? NPCs that don't stand on chairs? Yeah, I know, right? But they're not asserting dominance, so I don't fear them. They're not T-posing on the chairs to assert dominance. So, these NPCs are just going to be easy mode. This I fucking love. Why don't we have that in Star Citizen?
It's completely up to you how you want to interact with each planet. Whether you want to explore and see what you can find, harvest resources and be on your way, or simply take in the views. With the help of your scanner, you'll chart the uncharted and discover exotic wildlife.
That's one of the benefits, Dingo, about when they finally put NPCs stay on ships when we do shipboardings and they're carrying stuff that we want to take. Like, they're going to fight back. They're not going to combat log. Although I would feel slightly, less immersed because they didn't combat log.
If you have the skills, you can even figure out that certain creatures and plants, you can build an outpost and produce resources from those plants and animals. You can get experience and rewards for fully surveying planets and fully surveying a whole system.
When we were concepting these creatures, we really wanted to think of them as natural to the environment. We didn't want alien monsters, we wanted native wildlife. Something you've never seen before.
When it comes to our exteriors, when the sun moves, all that light is calculated in real time.
After playing Star Citizen, this should just be a good game instead of a life. Time obsession that is marriage-ending possibilities, mate. Until they release the MMO version, and then just just jack into the bloody Matrix then.
Through the atmosphere. Our biggest goal for lighting with Starfield was to make the game feel more filmic, to use lighting and color to really make it feel more cinematic.
On PC, apparently it's not. So the 30 FPS frame limit is for console. For PC, if your system's able to do it, it should run at 60. That's what they've said. Now, everything, I don't know if you guys were paying attention to what the lighting artist said, but everything that lighting artist said is pretty much all the shit that CIG has marketed as their selling point, cinematic gameplay experience. There you go. Like, here's your cinematic gameplay experience. Except Care Bear's gonna fucking love it because, they don't have to worry about some griefer showing up and bloody shitting on them before they get to leave a landing zone. Although I do hope that they have AI that shows up and does it. I'd be a bit disappointed if they didn't.
After some exploring, you can find a spot to set up a base camp. Outposts can be built almost anywhere on any planet. And the habitat modules come in all shapes and sizes, filling all different purposes. You can
This is frustrating. And I know CIG is probably waiting for server meshing, but I don't think that's a good enough reason. They could be spinning up servers, have lobbies where we can join on specific servers, and then you can do base building on individual servers. Like you do in Ark. So that they can focus on developing the building system. But no. Because at Squadron 42, Squadron 42, I believe, is a drain on the resources that CIG should be using to build Star Citizen. It really is. Bet they have map markers too. One thing I haven't seen yet is a well, you've got the mini map in the bottom left-hand corner on the FPS screen, but I haven't seen like a compass in terms of giving bearings. Well, it's about what base building can present the opportunity for, because as we watch more of this, you'll see...
Assign crew and companions to work at your outposts for added bonuses, and set up extractors to harvest resources while you're away.
There it is. Resource collection. So we can do fucking base raids. Those land claims only apply in UEE space as well. Like, you can go out into bloody, unclaimed space and just build wherever the fuck you want. But yeah, like, outpost raids. Instead of fucking waiting on CIG to build out new outposts, just let the players fucking do it. Oh, this base has bloody, players at it that have been stockpiling gold for the last month before, and they're gonna fill a ship up and sell it all. Let's go raid it.
I think what we have this time is we have a new fly cam where you can toggle between on-foot building, or you can now use a top-down isometric camera, which helps plan out larger parts of the outpost and placing those larger halves. So that way you can really plan your structures and what the overall feel of your outpost is. And then when you're on your feet...
The thing though is that this is closer to No Man's Sky in terms of base building, because that's what you do at No Man's Sky. You can build a base anywhere. Land on the planet, build a base. But to see it in this game as well is frustrating, because this visual style is closer to Star Citizen than what No Man's Sky is. So with No Man's Sky, it's had it for years. You can create that mental separation because it's like, it doesn't look the same. But this, you could have a constellation, Andromeda, fly in the background and people would think it was Star Citizen. You wouldn't tell the difference.
You can
this is
really
why this is
decorate
frustrating,
and fine-tune
watching
things
this.
much easier.
Add crafting and research stations in your outpost to utilize any resources you find or already have.
Fucking look at this.
Mod your weapons to adapt them to your playstyle. Different weapon sights and scopes.
This frustrates me, because we've had weapons in Star Citizen, FPS weapons in Star Citizen, for fucking years. And we don't even get anywhere close to this level of customization.
Larger magazines. A selection of grips and barrels. Different ammunition like explosive rounds. All you stealth players out there will surely need a suppressor. You can also choose to go hands-on with melee weapons.
I think it's always a delicate balance between like what's realistic, what's sim, and what's Hollywood. And I think we sort of err on the side of like what's fun for the player.
With Starfield, we've completely overhauled our combat. It's more dynamic, the animations are more fluid. It just feels great.
We probably have more mods and more weapons in this game than I want to say any other game we've done before.
You're making it... We're not that far off from finishing this particular video, Dingo. Actually, there's another video that I want to watch after this, which is an interview with Todd, because I haven't watched it yet. He's doing one with, was it IGN's interviewing him, and he's talking about Starfield. I'm interested to see what he has to say there, but yeah, like, just watching this is frustrating, because I'm like, Star Citizen could have this. It should have this. Why the fuck are we still waiting on different ammunition types for FPS weapons? You know, where are the rest of the underbarrel grip modules? Or the rest of the underbarrel modules for weapons? I don't know, like, you know, I'm blaming Squadron 42 for a lot of this. I really am. Like, Squadron 42, I think, has taken too much away from Star Citizen. Like, if they dropped Squadron 42's development, the only frustration that I'd have with that is that they spent so much time on it and didn't finish it. But then I'd be happy because it'd be like, all right, sweet, you guys can now focus everyone on Star Citizen.
There's a lot of variety.
Upgraded gear is just one of the many factors to pay attention to when engaging in combat. You may need to switch things up based on your environment. Gravity is different for each planet, and boost packs are excellent for getting around. And for giving you an edge in combat. Sometimes you'll even feel like you're flying. Zero-gravity environments pose a different challenge. Firing a ballistic weapon in zero-G will actually push you backwards. Energy weapons, on the other hand, offer a more stable shooting experience.
We also have mag weapons.
Yeah, thermal. It's probably night vision somewhere too.
Electromagnetic induction ballistic arrays. Each barrel has its own targeting laser and can dish out some serious damage.
Like, look how fucking cool that is.
Whether you want to get up close and personal with your own two fists, or you like more compact weapons like pistols and submachine guns.
Can we EVA outside of our ships? We have no idea. Probably not. Like, is that big of a deal? Being able to EVA outside of your ship when we're missing, like, you look at this weapon selection here. Like, this gameplay, this FPS gameplay here, this is what should be in Star Citizen. There is no reason why it shouldn't be there.
Or maybe you prefer something bigger. Starfield's got you covered.
The thing about this, yeah, they would have showcased it if you could do it. Like, I'm pretty sure that a lot of their environments are canned. Like, canned environments, contained environments. Oh yeah, for sure. Like, network code is a problem with Star Citizen. And Squadron 42. Like, the progress that you see on Star Citizen is gated by Squadron 42. Other than the technical limitations of network code. Like, you know, them working on mining and salvaging That's not needed for Squadron 42. So those are Star Citizen specific, you know, gameplay features. And they haven't been, you know, like you look at the iterations that they're going through, like it's not great. But the FPS weapon side of things, like this is common in Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. You know, Bethesda has the, you know, benefit of being able to expand on the combat system from Fallout. You can do shipboardings, but you got to dock with them. Like, the points of, you know, being able to EVA and have other options is niceties, but they're not necessities as long as you can board a ship. You know, as long as you can do X activity, like people, you know, like a point that a lot of people make is, you know, oh, it's a cutscene between going from space to atmosphere. It's like, it's not that big of a deal in terms of gameplay. If anything, it's more convenience. Yeah, it's cool the first couple of times. It's like the trains. I've said this for fucking years. When I first saw Lorville and the train system, you know, people are going, oh, wow, you can ride the fucking train from, you know, your habs to the spaceport. And I just groaned because I'm like, fuck, now I got to catch that stupid thing every time I fucking die and wake up in my hab. Just so I can get back to my ship. You know, it's cool the first time. Wait until you got to do it 100, 500, 1,000, 10,000 times. You think it's going to be cool after 10,000 times where you're looking around going, fuck, I'm on the train again. Nah, Dingo. I don't think they've made Squadron 42 a more open world experience. Yeah, then the train kills you. Not, they wouldn't have done Squadron 42 in the same vein as this. Like, there's certain features that are Star Citizen specific that will never be touched by the Squadron 42 teams. They'll use common assets, like the Reclaimer is an asset that's used between Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, but they won't, you know, the salvaging features, doesn't matter if the AI can salvage or not, they can fake that. But yeah, going back to my point here, the FPS features which are common between the two, like having different, you know, ammunition types, having different magazine types, having different, you know, like we've got a few different sights, we've got a few, like we've got two. But this annoys me. We've got two different fucking underbarrel attachments, right? And they've given us subscriber store items where they just change the fucking light or the laser color. It's like, fucking, is it really that hard to do a bloody, you know, vertical foregrip so that you can steady the weapon easier? Is it really that hard to do a fucking bipod? You know, an underbarrel shotgun, an underbarrel, you know, grenade launcher. Where the fuck are these features? Like, this game does have the benefit of building off what's, you know, was built for Fallout. But what we keep getting in Star Citizen, it doesn't even look like they're pushing in that direction. So when we see it in a game like this, it is so fucking annoying. Because Star Citizen should have that. And yet we don't. After all the backing, all the support, we still don't have features like that. This game, you know, gets it out the gate. fucking love that. Like, that needs to be in Star Citizen. Oh, look, Mass Effect.
Thanks again for being with us today. We are just so grateful that you've taken the time.
Yeah, cool, thanks. Starfield, 25 years in the making. Yeah, 25 years is in the concept. You know, and getting to a point where they felt like they could actually build it. And that there was an audience for it. Right, because if you take everything that they've done for, you know, Skyrim, like Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, you know, the Fallout series, and you've iterated on the engine that, you know, facilitates that gameplay, then you have a system that allows you to build out this type of, you know, these feature sets quickly. But the problem here with Star Citizen is that we're not even seeing evidence from them. We're not even seeing evidence from COG that they're even going to attempt things that we just saw there. They've talked about it, but they haven't put, you know, words to action because they're focused. They're fucking focused on Squadron 42. Like, they're sitting there and they're going, yep, because of the Kickstarter campaign, which only made them a few million, we're going to focus on getting that game done first. And that's the thing, is like, Squadron 42 is in the fucking way, and it needs to get the fuck out of the way. Like, I don't care about Squadron 42 enough that, you know, if they stopped working on it, that I would be upset. As I said before, the only reason why I'd be upset that they stopped working on Squadron 42 is they spent so long working on it, wasting time. Yeah, well, Alex, as I said before, if Starfield was an MMO, I'd be like, yep, I'm going to go play that. I'm going to go be a space pirate in Starfield. Yeah, I'm still hesitant on picking up Starfield. I might not. You know, I don't like the single player aspect of it. But fuck me, if they come out with an MMO version of it, I'll be watching it really closely. Really fucking closely. And if it turns out to be, you know, anywhere close to what we're seeing in, you know, those trailers there, except on an MMO scale, I'll be like, yep, I'm going across there. Oh, you know, Chris, come grab me when you're done with Star Citizen. Like I said that I'll play Squadron 42 when they finish it. But I don't care if they don't. I don't care if they bloody, you know, spend another 10 years working on Squadron 42. What I care about is that fucking Star Citizen is taking so long. I understand that there's tech hurdles with the networking code, but there's other features that they could be working on. The FPS stuff doesn't need the fucking networking code to be on point. To a certain degree it does. But my point about that is the different weapon types, weapon customization isn't reliant on networking code. Base building. The only component why you would need networking code to be, you know, a concern there is because they're going for this one universe thing. But if they do, you know, server-based lobbies or a lobby system for servers, base building could be implemented sooner. Because then all you do is return to the server. Just like how Atlas does, just like how Ark does. You do base building that way. And that's the frustration out of, you know, here, is that there's things that we see in Starfield that could be in Star Citizen. But because there's so much focus on other things, we're stuck here, you know, waiting. Stuck here with shit features. And that's why, like, watching the Starfield, you know, deep dive was frustrating to me. Because I watched this and I'm like, this is where Star Citizen should be. Should be closer to what we're seeing here than what we've got now. And the longer that they're working on fucking Squadron 42, the worse off Star Citizen's going to be. Which is why I really fucking hope that they're pushing Squadron 42 out the door at CitizenCon this year. And then man, I really hope Chris doesn't turn around and say, and now we're going to work on the next episode of Squadron 42. Because if he does, I hope someone fucking throws a chair at him and says, finish fucking Star Citizen. We don't want Squadron 42 Episode 2 until Star Citizen's done. Yeah, like, Starfield is closer to No Man's Sky than it is to Star Citizen, but there's features in fucking Starfield that we should be seeing in Star Citizen sooner rather than later, and CIG hasn't given any indication that we're going to see them. Like the FPS weapon customization, I see no reason why that is not in Star Citizen now. The star map being functional and updated the UI, I don't see any reason why that's not in Star Citizen now. Scanning planets and moons, I don't see any reason why that shouldn't be in Star Citizen now. And COG can keep sitting there going, oh, well, we're not done yet. Why? Why are you not done yet? Why aren't, you know, why isn't that feature being focused on? And if it has anything to do with Squadron 42, my point will always be, then dump Squadron 42 and focus on the product that your audience actually wants. Or reduce the team size that's working on Squadron 42 and just laser in on Star Citizen and focus on getting the, you know, gameplay experience up and running for that. I'm pretty sure Squadron 42 is going to have more than 40 hours of gameplay. I think the original goal was 40 hours of gameplay, but I'm pretty sure it's going to end up blowing out to more. But yeah, it's not going to be open roam. Squadron 42 isn't going to be open roam. I'd say it's going to be closer to the, what is it, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare's campaign. With a bit more interaction with the AI. Yeah. All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to watch an interview that Todd Howard's having on fulfilling his vision, the Xbox performance. We'll probably skip over that. But this is about Starfield that IGN is having with Todd Howard. I haven't watched this yet, so I've got no idea what's going to happen. It goes for half an hour. If it starts getting boring, I'm going to probably skip over parts of it. But yeah, let's see how this goes.
With IGN, I am joined by my good game development friend, Todd Howard.
Good to see you again.
It is good to see you. We chatted a year ago remotely. We're top and we'll kind of work our way down into a lot going on with this. So I want to just kind of start at the top and we'll kind of work our way down into more nitty-gritty details. This is the first new IP you've done in a couple of decades now. It's been a little while. So totally new thing. It's the biggest exclusive for Microsoft in a long time. And it's certainly the biggest thing Microsoft's put out since they acquired Bethesda. So, pressure.
This will be interesting because if it's a Microsoft-only game, they'll eventually allow it on PlayStation, but, you know, if anybody knows the history of Chris Roberts, they know that, you know, Chris Roberts worked with Microsoft for a period of time, and they ended up firing him. I guarantee you, Chris, that even if there's no options to do it in, you know, natively, there's going to be modders who will make it so that you can change it. Like, that's one of the strengths of Bethesda games, is the moddability of them.
Do you, in all seriousness, like, do you kind of feel any extra pressure compared to any of the other games you've made, or you just kind of focus on what you do? I'm just sort of curious if the stuff that, like, we talk about in the gaming community is something that goes through your head or gets talked about in the office at all.
Well, clearly, you know, I'm aware of that, you know, everything you said. And compared to our previous games, there's always a lot of attention on what we do. We're very fortunate. But for us, we have put so much into this game. And it is, as you said, you know, our first new IP in over 25 years. It's our first major release in about 8 years.
Yeah.
So for us, we have just put so much into it that we're just doing everything we can to make the best game that we can. Hope that everybody loves it. So we feel we're on the right track, and we're.
To be full of bugs in September, probably. Although considering that they're going to be doing a concurrent Xbox and PC release, I believe that it probably won't be as buggy as what people are expecting. The problem that we've got is that a lot of you know, majorly hyped games that have released over the years, I'd say in the last 5 years, 5 to 10 years, is that they've all released with, you know, pretty obvious bugs. So when it comes to, you know, like expectations of AAA games being released with it, you know, that are relatively bug-free, it's kind of understandable that we're all skeptical of it. But I think this is going to have, you know, I believe that this will be a bit more stable of a release than in comparison to other games. Purely because this is a new IP coming from Bethesda, and they're going to try and push to, you know, make this popular. Especially considering that games like No Man's Sky, Elite Dangerous, Star Citizen, you know, X4 Foundations, EVE Online have proven that there is an audience capacity for this type of game. They'll want to attract that audience base. And it being, you know, like a buggy mess may actually be enough to get people's attention, and then they'll wait until the game's stable, and then Bethesda makes another push. But I believe they're also already planning out their first DLC, so even if there's a bunch of bugs that's in the initial release, the DLC that comes out, which will be relatively shortly after the release of the game, will probably have the fixes required.
We're really fortunate, I think, with some of those things you said, to get the attention.
Yeah.
And that we know there's a lot of people out there looking forward to it, and we just view our job as, you know, hey, just do the best job we can do, put everything we can into the game, and I hope everyone loves it.
Ready to lift off when you are, Captain.
Engines ready.
The frontier is fueled and ready, Captain.
So I think the last time we talked, or maybe the time before, I gave you a little grief for you Babe Ruthian, you called your shot with 11-11-22 really far in advance.
I did.
And I think we were having a little fun about that before the delay. So 22 really far in your shot with 11-11-22 really far in advance.
I did.
And I think we were having a little
No,
fun
it's
about
already
that
had one delay.
Before the delay. So I mean, it's good. We want a better game. We don't want, you know, you to just make the date just for the sake of making the date. So just out of curiosity, like, how has the extra time been spent specifically with Starfield?
Well, look, it's just such a big game. And as you do these things, you know, you do your best as it comes to release dates and projections. But given the scale of it, if one thing is off that by a percentage, that can escalate quickly to more time. And we've really spent it most of this year playing the game a ton, over and over, and making sure that, you know, it's balanced, it's as fun as possible, honing systems and interface, obviously bug fixing and all of those things, performance, and really getting it where we're really sure and solid on what we're putting out there for everybody.
Well, speaking of performance, Xbox gamers went through a little unpleasant surprise with the last big Bethesda exclusive not too long ago with Redfall, and you know, that maybe not performing on console on the Series X, kind of how we'd hoped. So just, I think really all we're looking for is not necessarily everything's got to be 4K 60 or 120 frames, but just kind of, nobody likes surprises, you know, when it comes to the game that they're going to buy, how it performs, how it feels. Now, your games have always been these just boundary-pushing, envelope-pushing, huge, open, detailed worlds. They've been 30 frames per second on console traditionally. So just, I'm going to turn it over for you for a second here. Just lay out, just so that nobody's surprised come September 6th.
Sure.
What are we looking at on, if I'm going to play this on a Series X, or even if you want to mention Series S as well, like, what's the...
Something else that I actually want to mention here is that they're actually doing 2 game packages. So you got your regular one, the digital package, and then you got your digital deluxe package, which apparently gives you up to 5 days early access. So the release date is the 6th of September, but if you buy the digital deluxe package, you get access 5 days earlier. So September 1st or 2nd, around that time, which is actually a significant deal because, you know, like, once, for starters, all the content creators are going to pick it up and play, you know, so that they can get their Let's Play videos out there and, you know, build up audience. But it also, you know, gives Bethesda enough time that they can kind of space out the release. And it also gives people enough time so that if, you know, all the content creators and the early adopters who pick up the game encounter bugs, Bethesda can, you know, quickly analyze and, you know, try and correct before it gets out to the rest of the public. So it's interesting that they're doing that, but at the same time, it's like, you really shouldn't be aiming for having bugs on release anyway.
Experience going to be, technically speaking?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. You know, I think it'll come as no surprise, given our previous games. What we go for are always these huge open worlds, fully dynamic, hyper detail, where anything can happen. And we do want to do that. You know, it's 4K on the X, it's 1440 on the S. We do lock it at 30 because we want that fidelity. We want all that stuff. We don't want to sacrifice any of it. Fortunately, in this one, we've got it running great. It's often running way above that. Sometimes it's 60. But on the consoles, we do lock it because we prefer the consistency.
Yeah.
Right? You're not even thinking about it. And we don't ever want to sacrifice that experience that makes our games, you know, really, really special. So feels great. We're really happy with how it feels, even in the heat of battle. And we need that headroom because, you know, in our games, really anything can happen.
Speaking of tweaking and optimizing, there were some rumors going around that id Software was helping you guys out with the combat, with tuning combat. I'm just curious, was there any truth to that at all?
They did not help us with the combat. Well, first of all, I'd say, you know, being in the company, knowing the folks at id Software for a long time, I'm like a huge Doom fan.
I mean, they know what they're doing. That's why I ask.
They're the absolute best. Doom Eternal is one of my favorite games. And so with Fallout 4, they did give us a few tips on how to handle combat.
Yeah.
But in Starfield, you know, we redid the combat ourselves, and it's really feeling great. But id has helped us really more on the graphic. They've helped us on the graphics side.
Oh, nice.
So we get into like, motion blur, that it's just how the game feels smooth. Some other things that they do in id Tech that we wanted to bring over into Creation Engine 2, and they helped us do that, and it's great.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a nice neighbor to have down the street. That you
It
can
is,
go
and
knock
I
on the
love
door and ask for some milk and sugar, right?
And I'm such a fan of what they do, so being able to get an early look at what they're doing next. Not here to talk about that, but it's just.
Oh, I mean, feel free to talk about that. I mean, if you want.
No.
All right. So I'm curious. Given you mentioned that it's going to be just shy of 8 years between shipping Fallout 4 and shipping Starfield, which, to my knowledge, is the longest that you've ever gone between shipping games that you've directed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, obviously we had 76 in between, but it's something that I've directed. Yes.
Yeah.
That is the longest.
So, can you I'm just curious about what was your initial vision for Starfield and how that's either stayed true and borne out or evolved over the course of 8 years?
That's a great question. I will say this, that the game sticks to the original vision. That took longer than I wanted. But I'd say about halfway through the project, you realize this is why nobody tries to make this game. So it's been when you do these things, and you take some risks, and you're really ambitious.
Halfway through the development, and if it took 8 years, so they were sitting there at the 4-year mark.
That can be a very windy path sometimes, is how I'd say it. But it is true to the vision we had for our type of role-playing game set in space and where your mind kind of goes. And we want to, as much as possible, say yes to the player. Like, can I do this? Can I do this? Yes, 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 yes. And space is big. So the amount of content that we ended up making to have that really feel authentic to that, that did grow and grow from where we originally started.
I mean, so neither one of us is getting younger. We've both been doing our respective things for a while.
Yeah.
So, are you okay with things taking 8 years again in the future, or
not my plan? I don't think you would ever plan for that. Sometimes that's how it ends up, so that that what you're putting on the screen is what you want. But you're right. I'm not getting younger. You sort of start.
Like how many games
I probably
do you have left in you?
Yeah, how many games are ahead of me?
Yeah.
Versus behind me, and so that does start to enter your head.
You know what I hate about these pirates? Completely resistant to my otherwise irresistible charm.
Would you point to any other games as inspiration for Starfield along the way? I mean, not in the literal sense of I
this
want
is
to
a
do what
loaded
they
question.
did, but in terms of like giving the player a feeling that something that a game you played. That you really wanted to convey. I mean, when you first showed me this game a while back, I mean, I certainly was reminded of Elder Scrolls and Fallout. There's the DNA is there, but the other, I would say, 2 non-Bethesda games that I got little vibes from were No Man's Sky and Mass Effect.
Well, clearly, those other games that are science fiction, I think you might look at and say, okay, this is science fiction. It's like that. I think the minute-to-minute, obviously on the ground, it has similarities to Elder Scrolls and Fallout and the things that we've made and how it feels in your hands or some certain mechanics. But believe it or not, it's the games that put you in a world, that transport you to a place. So I think it probably also, as a flow, probably has more of a feeling of like a Red Dead 2, right? Like I'm living the Western fantasy.
Yeah.
And so in this, you're living this science fiction explorer fantasy, and sometimes that's being on a barren planet and nothing is going on.
Or an Old West town, like we saw that in the direct,
right?
Old
Or
West inspired.
and all of that. So for me, it's games that where I feel I am rooted in the reality of this universe of the game, and everything else kind of disappears.
There was, as people have now seen, there was a lot in the direct, in the 45 minutes that were covered. A big takeaway for me was that for everything we saw, there was just sort of these hints of constellation, and that seems to be who the main story is going to revolve around. But it,
okay.
Separate from that, or kind of, I guess, adjacent to that, it seems like there's so much to do in this game that.
All right, we'll stick with it.
If are we going to be? Are you going to be okay if players just don't end up really necessarily even paying much attention to the main story and just end up kind of doing their own thing out there, or are you going to are you taking kind of greater pains to make sure that people want to stay and get through that main path before they get back out to the wild space frontier?
It's a good question. I view our job as giving people the menu.
Yeah.
Here are the things you can do, and it's a very large game. Obviously, there's a lot to it. It can be complicated at times, and we have found though that the gaming audience, in particular our fans, they want to have all those options. And I do think more than anything we've done, I really believe this, that the more you give to Starfield, the more it gives back to you. And that was one of our goals. And so I do hope people play the main quest, and I hope people do this, but most of all, I want them ultimately to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah. I mean, I know you don't want to give away a lot about the main storyline, certainly, and people don't want.
Like, they've had all this marketing data that they could pull from games like Star Citizen, Elite Dangerous, No Man's Sky. You know, when they would have seen No Man's Sky being released, that would have motivated them to just keep pushing forward, especially as it was updated. And, you know, like, it's not far of a stretch to expect that, you know, like, in a sci-fi game that you would want to be able to just not worry about the main storyline and go off and do your own thing. And this game looks like it's going to facilitate it more than any of other Bethesda's games. Because if you abandon the main storyline in games like Skyrim and that, you just run around and you do missions, do the side quests and all that. That's really about it. Whereas in Starfield, if you wanted to, you could probably just become a cargo hauler and haul cargo. Go from one place, buy cargo, fly to another place, sell it. And then if you have a side quest encounter, you can make a choice whether or not you're going to do it. Whereas if you're trying to do that in the Elder Scrolls games or even in the Fallout series, you kind of wasting your time. Like, it doesn't really facilitate that sort of gameplay. Whereas Starfield looks like it's going to, just like you would in Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous. Which is, to me, another reason why we're going to see, more people move towards playing Starfield. Like, not only for the single player experience, but also because it gives them the experiences that they're looking for from Star Citizen, but can't get yet because Star Citizen doesn't have specific features that they should be working on because their focus has been on a fucking single player game.
I want to have that spoiled for them, but what I would be curious of, given again the scale and scope of this that the Direct conveyed and that I barely scratched the surface of when I was playing a little while ago, of these 1,000 planets, of all this stuff you've got going on, how much of it will the main story lead you towards? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because you probably want to show as much of the diversity and as many of the cool places that your team worked really hard on over the course of the campaign, but you can't show everything. You can't lead them up to 1,000 different planets, right?
We want to keep it sort of, manageable. That's what I would say in the main quest. So we hit some high points, but not even, it's still a small fraction, like you're saying, to what's in the game. And for us, like a main quest, we want it to sort of pay off. There are people that do want to come to a game, do the main story, and feel that, okay, I've won. I can now do something else. I think that's okay too. But we've also learned, look, we're sitting here, it's 12 years after Skyrim. We're looking at a game that has over 60 million copies and all these people playing it, and they're still playing it. And so we have learned we need to build in from the beginning a game that has this long-term play thought of. So that, hopefully, people are playing Starfield a long time from now.
Well,
they even mention PvP in Starfield? No. Like, Starfield is a single player game. Like, Bethesda would be stupid not to move in the direction of making Starfield an MMO IP. No, it's not going to be an MMO type. If it does become one, buddy, you watch Star Citizen just fucking pick up and go across there. Or the entire Star Citizen community just pick up, go over there, and just wait until Star Citizen's done. And just watch, you know, CIG's funding dwindle. Well, that's been in the past. The modding community has given Bethesda games the longevity. Because they're able to create gameplay out of that. But what we're seeing in Starfield is that this may be one of the first Bethesda games where they've got additional gameplay that you can perform outside of the quests. Yeah, but Telvi, you've also forgotten that Bethesda has a successful MMO already. Like, they've got the Elder Scrolls Online, which has a large player base still playing it. So they've got experience, you know, running an MMO. They've got experience, you know, like having an MMO not do too well. So all they got to do is just pay attention to the failures that they had, make sure they don't bloody, you know, make the same mistakes, and expand on the successes.
On that note, you guys have always done post-release content. You know, if you've had like major paid, bigger expansions, you've had smaller scale stuff. I can't imagine that you'd even want to necessarily expand this game geographically moving forward, because there's already a ton there. So like, I know you're not here to just give away your announce your post-release plan, but like, conceptually, how are you thinking about it, given that this is like a giant universe rather than just a continent, like in Cyrodiil and in an Elder Scrolls game?
Right, it's a great question. I mean, look, we're going to be doing a lot of add-on content for Starfield. We love doing it. Our fans love it. We will have announced sort of the first one that's going to, we're going to do a story expansion pack that's going to be coming. Our plan is to do things of varying sizes. And we've done a lot of that in our previous games, so it's something that we really like doing, our fans like. So despite the size of the game, there's still things we want to add as far as features in the future, and stories and things like that. So we think this is going to gain, hopefully, that's going to continue for a long time that way.
At the end of the Direct, we heard from a bunch of folks on your team about their favorite moments that they've had while playing. Can you paint me a specific picture of a memorable moment for a character that you've rolled that you've been playing in recent months? Like some just memorably cool scenario.
Let's see, just a few weeks ago, I landed on one of the early planets, and this sandstorm blew through, and I went to run away from it, and this, you know, ships can randomly, once in a while, they can randomly land, like enemy ships can land. So I'm going through the sandstorm, the ship landed, and I get in this firefight, and I got on the ship, and while I'm shooting the guys on the surface of the planet, the ship took off into space. So now I'm in outer space on the ship, and I was just like, can that happen? I guess that can happen. Yeah.
One of my favorite moments from Oblivion, which I've told you many times is my favorite game of yours. That's the one that I have the most positive memories with. Was randomly finding a unicorn in the forest.
That is yes, you can do that there.
So Are there like 50 of those kinds of things
There's a
in
good
this
number.
game where
There's
there's
a
just
lot.
stuff that's not a quest, you'll just randomly happen upon this memorable special
I don't
thing?
want to spoil what they are, but yeah, of course. We love that stuff. And we have some really, really special ones in this game that I think I'm very curious to see how long after the game is out, that people discover it.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Skyrim and tens and tens of millions of copies of that and the sort of historic runaway train that thing's been. I mean, you probably can't count on that level of success again necessarily. So what does success look like for you with this game?
That's a good question, because with Game Pass, we're obviously going to be bringing in, probably the biggest audience that we've had for a launch. And so it just makes you really fortunate to know that you can take these kind of risks with a game like this and be ambitious, but still know that it's going to get in a lot of people's hands. So, I mean, I think for us it is that, people say they love the game. And I think all games go through a couple phases. They have this phase where the game isn't out yet. What do people think of it? Then there's what do they think of it the first week it comes out? But then you got to think about, what do they think?
Have to
work over a long-term play, over hundreds of hours, like a character system, versus, hey, look, this is for a lot of years.
They still going on?
Landscapes, pretty much. But just of it than we've ever done.
Wow. Is it reasonable to suggest that if Starfield is as awesome and successful as we all hope it is, that as gamers, is it reasonable to think that a Starfield 2 is 10 plus years away? Because and the reason I bring this up, not to bring it back to how much time do we all have left, but you have always kept.
Is this going to get depressing?
No, I hope not.
Okay.
But you've always kept your team, clearly on purpose, as one team. Bethesda Game Studios, your team, and you had been alternating between Elder Scrolls and then once you acquired it, Fallout, and you'd gone back and forth. And now you've had this 8-year Starfield thing in here. You've already committed to Elder Scrolls 6 as the next thing. You said it's in pre-production. And then last year when we talked, you said, yep, Fallout 5, I want to do that. That'll be next.
That was more of like a general, it will clearly be after Elder Scrolls 6 at some point.
Okay,
That's let me clarify that one.
All right, go ahead.
At some point in the future.
But
Elder Scrolls 6 is the next one.
Yeah, but if Starfield's awesome and you want to do another one, and the team wants to do another one, and the company wants another one, it sounds like it's probably going to be a while.
I don't have a great answer for you there. It's an astute observation.
I mean, I'm not trying to get you to unveil the roadmap. I'm just because again, you've kept your team smaller. You have to date not grown a second team within the studio, unless you have, and that's.
Well, we have what I would call a full-size group team on 76 still.
Right.
Updating that game, it's doing great, very fortunate. But you're right in that we have gotten bigger. We have 4 studios. We have the one in Rockville, we have Montreal, we have Austin, we have Dallas. So we have gotten bigger to handle all this. We work with a lot of partners on stuff. But that doesn't speed things up necessarily, right? You need a certain size. We're relatively small comparatively,
right,
to do these things. And I think if we look at Skyrim, again, not the plan to have an Elder Scrolls 6 this far after Skyrim, but in today's day, people are playing these games for longer. So our ability, like we talked about, to support Starfield, whereas maybe in the old days you would put it out and then you'd go on to a sequel, now we can support that game for a much longer period of time, which is what our plan is. And then as we look to an Elder Scrolls 6, that is one where I probably shouldn't say this, but if I do the math, I am not getting any younger. How long do people play an Elder Scrolls for? That may be the last one I do. I don't know.
The last Elder Scrolls.
The last Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know.
I mean, I do the math as a gamer, and it's am I even going to be playing Elder Scrolls 6 on the Series X? or am I going to be playing that on the next thing? Because it's crazy how long the games that you make, they take a long time.
I wish they did. I want them to be faster, but that speed isn't the goal.
Right. Or should it
The
be?
goal is, hey, what's the product? What's the vision? How do we do this? And how do we continue to support the ones that we currently have? Because we have millions of people playing Fallout 4, millions playing 76, Skyrim. So it's about, hopefully have that with Starfield.
Well, that's a reality, though, that we have to face, Dingo, is that fucking, these games take a lot longer to build than what people expect. We're seeing it with Star Citizen. And I think the problem that we're gonna, the thing that we have to accept here is that unless, Bethesda looks at expanding their studio and hybridizing the way that they work on games, probably similar to the way that Ubisoft does it, where they have multiple teams work on the same game but at different points of the development, we're always going to be facing this issue with Bethesda where it's like one game at a time. Although technically I think they are adopting Ubisoft's model of where they work on multiple games concurrently, but they have like a flagship game that they have the majority of the teams working on.
You had told me last year that you want to direct Fallout 5, like that you want that to be your game at some point down the road. But now with the Microsoft, Bethesda, Xbox Game Studios family getting a lot bigger, you did work with Obsidian years ago with New Vegas. Could any of the games that you and your team have created, any of these 3 franchises, would you want to work with any of them potentially on something in the future?
I mean, there's always
Starfield too.
I can't say
just palm it off onto them
to any of that. For us, it is what's going to get us the best product.
Yeah.
How do we stay focused? I think there's a lot of times where you can get unfocused and try to do too many things at once, and then they don't end up necessarily the way you want.
Almost sounds like he's describing Star Citizen.
And so if I look at other franchises or I look at entertainment in general, I haven't noticed like the time gap between things being a negative.
Right.
Right? They can be a negative when you think about it and you make a calendar. Yeah. Hey, when Starfield 2.
Look at Grand Theft Auto.
Exactly.
That hasn't suffered in the
Or,
slightest.
The gaps between, I think Half-Life 3 will do fine. Right? So, so even though in the moment, you're like, how do I bring that closer to reality today? Because I want to play it. Those gaps, these are still evergreen franchises that I think when they come, it's about just doing it right.
Yeah, well, that's what we as gamers want to hear too, certainly. So Starfield, I played an hour. It felt like 3 minutes. There was, and you were like hustling me along to different save files, like go look at this, go look at this. What's the character you're playing now? Because you've got the traits, you've got the background. So like, what are you maining right now?
Well, I try to do it all. Right now, I'm digging deep on spaceships. So, I mean, you could say in some respects, this is like 5 or 6 games in one, right? It's the spaceship game, it's an on-the-ground game, it's just a dialogue game, it's an outpost game, it's a crafted game. It does all of these things, and so. And it always is tricky for us to get a good game flow where those things don't feel like they're separate games, that they can weave in and out of them in a way that is holistically creates something, greater than the sum of its parts.
What a view! It's a feast for the eyes. Off we go to another adventure.
To help contextualize Starfield for players before they get the chance to play it themselves, what's the feeling that you try to give people with Elder Scrolls? What's the feeling that you try to give people with Fallout? And what's the feeling that you try to give players with this?
I mean, that's a good question. I would say if you think about
This guy asks a lot of good questions according to Tom.
Elder Scrolls with a fantasy world, who would you want to be and what would you want to do? We want to provide that.
Yeah.
And then Fallout, the same thing in a post-apocalyptic environment. How does that factor into the things you find? And how does crafting is very unique in Fallout when it comes to that? Or what's the vibe of the people? What are they sacrificing to stay alive? And then when you get to Starfield and science fiction, same sort of thing where if you were to open it up and you could do anything, how are we providing that experience? And we love exploration, so when you get into a game like this, that's why people say, why do you have 1,000 planets? Because we'd rather give you the option to do that than say no.
Yeah.
And so I think if people drift toward fantasy, they're going to love it. You know, they're going to stick with Elder Scrolls. If they like post-apocalyptic, they go to Fallout. If they like science fiction, we hope that Starfield fills that kind of desire to play that kind of thing with Starfield.
Todd Howard, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Starfield out September 6th. Series X, Series S.
Will there be a planet that is secretly Skyrim? I have no idea, but I'm just going to say yes, and hopefully it catches on the rest of the internet. And there'll also be a planet that's Fallout. Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed New Vegas as well. So yeah, Starfield. No Star Mansfield Sky Citizen. Starfield, a game that, you know, I believe that Starfield is closer to No Man's Sky in terms of feature sets. As somebody pointed out earlier, it's like the 4K update of fucking No Man's Sky. But there's features in Starfield that need to be in Star Citizen sooner rather than later. Like, Squadron 42, as far as I'm concerned, is the reason why Star Citizen is suffering. That's, you know, looking at it from the outside, non-developer, not working on the games, just looking at it and like, you guys need to focus your efforts on one game. The thing that's making you the most amount of money is, you know, Star Citizen, and you're under-delivering on it, and, you know, telling us all that you're working on a different product. You know, that's your main focus. And all that, you know, like, Starfield has now put pressure on Squadron 42 in that the entire Star Citizen community is going, alright, well, we've been dealing with this shit fight, and now there's a game that's coming out that's going to give us what we want. Other than the MMO aspect. So a lot of the Care Bears are going to fucking go across to Starfield and play that until Star Citizen comes out. Like, progress has been glacial for Star Citizen, but they've also been building their studios. That's, you know, like, there's advantages that Bethesda has over CIG. Like, they've got an established game engine that they could rely on, whereas, you know, CIG is doing the insane thing and, you know, updating a existing game engine to do things that it shouldn't have, you know, that it wasn't designed to do. Building two games at once, building a studio, crowdfunding. But what all that's done is essentially, you know, like, highlighted the necessity for CIG to focus. It returns to the Play Store at discounted $35 tomorrow. Yeah. I still strongly believe, like, CIG's been on notice and they've probably been aware that Starfield's coming out this year. And Squadron 42 coming off the store, I think, was a response to that, in that, you know, like, Squadron 42 was out for early access. Well, the purchasing of it was for early access. By them taking it off the store, one or two things has happened. Either they're fucking bloody canned the project and they're waiting long enough until bloody, you know, they've got the courage to turn around and say, yeah, we decided to stop working on that project and focus all of our attention on Star Citizen, which I highly fucking doubt. Well, the other one is that they've turned around and gone, no, it's pretty much done. We're now in the, you know, bug fixing phase. We've, you know, put everything that we have into Squadron 42 that we've, you know, wanted to. It's now in the polishing phase, so we've taken it off the store because when we release the game, that's it. The thing about that is that if it ends up being the latter, I'm hoping, and I said this before, hoping that Chris Roberts doesn't go, now that we've finished episode 1, we're going to move on to episode 2 of Squadron 42. What I hope if that happens is that somebody throws a chair at him and tells him to finish fucking Star Citizen first. Don't touch any of the other episodes of Squadron 42. Like, man, if there was a publisher sitting over the top of CIG that was, you know, worried about making money, they would be telling them, forget about Squadron 42, focus on Star Citizen, we're going to maintain the ship's selling cycle, and you guys are going to get this fucking game out. Yeah, it was done like a month ago now. They didn't say anything about it. The guy was actually bringing it up on Spectrum nearly every single day. And then I think CIG gave him a fucking... The Spectrum mods actually gave him a vacation. Like, we're going to see a lot of the PvE player base play Starfield. They're going to go across there. And we're probably not going to see him come back until Star Citizen's done. Or until, like, the gameplay features that they're looking for, that they can get out of Starfield, are done in Star Citizen. We'll still have other people to pirate, but, you know, like, if it ends up being that, you know, a huge swath of the player base from Star Citizen goes across to Starfield and they just play that game, you know, that just tells CIG everything that they need to know. You know, and they'll focus their efforts on the product that, you know, that they can get out the door quicker. As I said before at the start, I was talking about the scenario where it's actually really important now that CIG gets a game out the door, because Starfield and Star Citizen, even though they're not that closely related in terms of gameplay, well, they're closely related in features, but they're not closely related in terms of, you know, the not audience base, but the scale's almost, you know, scale's comparable. Star Citizen's an MMO, Starfield's a single player game. So what you're going to see is that those who want the MMO experience of Starfield are going to look towards Star Citizen, unless Bethesda is able to pull a fucking rabbit out of their ass and they go, oh, Starfield, by the way, we're turning that into an MMO game and it's coming out in this, you know, time frame, and then they start doing, you know, like a beta for it, which I highly fucking doubt they're going to in any sort of reasonable time frame. So Star Citizen is, you know, like, pretty much on notice. You know, like they need to get their feature sets sorted out that will pull the player base that goes across the Starfield back. ZeniMax is almost certainly working on a Star Wars MMO. Starfield is the push that Star Citizen needs? Fucking, I hope so. I think it's not Starfield so much is the push that Star Citizen needs. It's the writing on the wall that if CIG doesn't pull their finger out on Star Citizen, they will get overtaken. Not because of Starfield, but because of what comes after Starfield. Because one of the things that, you know, like larger publishers need to see is proof of concepts. So when games are developed, they're done in iterations, and the publishers do their check-ins to make sure that progress is fine. If, you know, a game's not progressing as well as they were hoping for, they'd can it. Well, Starfield is a proof of concept, but there's other games that came before it made by other publishers that have proven the concept that it works. And, you know, like, I've said it, you know, many times throughout this stream, Starfield is closer in comparison to No Man's Sky than it is to Star Citizen. But there's features in both of those games that if you put it into Star Citizen, the player base would explode. Popularity would explode. One of the key features that's holding Star Citizen back is server stability, but, you know, like, if they had stable servers, players would be a lot more bored as well. Is the current patch really bad? Server performance is really poor. Varies between server to server. The other problem with Star Citizen is it's a roller coaster in terms of stability. Like, you know, they put more shit in there. Servers break. They fix the servers. Get it somewhat stable. Put more shit in. Servers break. They keep going through that cycle. Well, Loki, CIG believed that nobody else was going to put out an immersive space sim like Squadron 42. And, you know, like, we ended up getting fucking, you know, Infinite Warfare a few years later, which I would say is closer to the Squadron 42, you know, campaign than any other game. Then you've got games like Elite Dangerous, No Man's Sky, X4, Foundations, bloody, you got Space Engineers, Starbase. Like, there's a whole range of sci-fi games that come close to what CIG's trying to do. It's just like Starfield is hitting a lot of the notes that CIG and Star Citizen was marketing on. You know, the cinematic experience of Star Citizen is being replicated in Starfield. Starfield has space sim elements in it though. Just not all of it. Like, you know, Bethesda focused on their strength, which was making an RPG. They just put it in space and then and then aim for a visual style that would be comparable to what you'd experience in Star Citizen. See, and, you know, they're hitting the notes that would attract the PvE player base from Star Citizen to Starfield. You And, you know, I said this about No Man's Sky. I've said it plenty of times. We're going a bit round and round with some of this commentary here, but, you know, this is kind of to emphasize these points. Like, No Man's Sky would be a lot more successful if they didn't go for the retro 50s stylization for their art style. If they hadn't gone for that retro 50 style, No Man's Sky would have done a lot better. If they had gone for like closer to realism to what you would see with, you know, in Star Citizen and now Starfield, I 100% would expect that their audience base would be larger. But, you know, like, I hope CIG is paying attention and that they realize that they don't have all the time in the world to do whatever the fuck they want. That they do need to push a product out the door. That they need to focus on the product that's making them money to keep their fucking audience base. And they can keep sitting there saying, oh, you know, more games is great for the audience and, you know, competition and all that sort of stuff. It's like, you need to stay in the game to be able to compete. And if you don't fucking stay in the game, you're not competing. So if you don't act like you're in a competition, which I'm not seeing that, then you're going to get left behind. Well, No Man's Sky has a level of detail to it that, you know, is still pretty in-depth. So, you know, like, going for the more realistic approach, and I'm talking like how shape language works in that game as well. You know, the guns, the spacesuits, the coloring, the ships. Like, they all look cartoonish, you know, retro 50s sci-fi, which was, you know, the style that they were going for. Like, that doesn't, you know, that's not as widely appealing as, you know, what the creators thought that it would be. Yeah, but the thing is like, one of the strengths of Star Citizen has pretty much just had its, you know, had parity brought, you know, a game has brought parity to what one of Star Citizen's strengths is, which is the cinematic feel. So now you've got Star Citizen with cinematic feel, now you've got Starfield with cinematic feel as well, which was a strength of Star Citizen that other games couldn't replicate. Well, now you got it. And then that other game, Starfield, also does base building. It does bloody a deeper level of character customization. You've got AI crewmates. You've got shipbuilding. You've got weapon crafting. You've got crafting of other shit. You've got bloody... what was it? Base building. Where does my understanding of game dev come from? I have a bachelor's degree in games and interactive design. It was actually my motivation to get out of the army was to become a game dev. And so I got out, did a diploma, tried getting work, realized it wasn't enough, went back to uni, got a degree, ended up with an internship, didn't end up in the games industry. Pretty much worked out once I'd finished my degree that if I wanted to get a decent job in the games industry, I'd have to move overseas, or, you know, at least to Victoria. which wasn't too great of an option considering I had a young family. Still got a young family, but it was the start of a young family. So took what I could do, and then realized that it wasn't really what I wanted to do, and now I'm trying to work that out. But yeah, I really want CIG to, like, just fucking get Squadron 42 sorted, get it out of the fucking way, and just focus on the product that's bringing the money in. You know, lock down the MVP, which unfortunately is tied to, you know, server tech. But, you know, if that's the way that they want to push, and, you know, like, push in that direction. But quality of life updates, like that star map, our fucking UI. Like, they talked about building blocks for years, about how great it was going to be and how easy it made bloody building of UI systems. And it's like, all right, well, we've got it. What's taking so long now on, you know, fixing this shit up? Even if it takes a couple of months for you guys to work on things, why are we not seeing new features being added based on the new tech that you've added? And yeah, Telva, you're right. Like, a lot of the player base in Star Citizen, they want solo gameplay. Some of them like to be solo in an MMO, which is weird, but, you know, more power to them. But yeah, Starfield's going to give them what they want. So of course they're going to go over there. That's what, you know, CIG really, like, if they're being honest with themselves, they will realize that. You know, there's another direction that all of this could go, and CIG, like, Chris could just go, you know what? Once we get Squadron 42 out the door, that's it. I'm not going to worry about Star Citizen. I'll sell the IP. Or he just steps back and lets somebody else take over. Because I imagine if he tries to sell the IP, he's probably going to get a fucking, you know, the next bloody thing that we see him at, he'll have a little red laser dot show up on his chest just before fucking somebody ends him. Like, a lot of people put a lot of money into this game, and I would not be surprised if there's somebody fucking crazy enough to go out their way to, you know, cap him if he tries to, you know, throw the towel in with Star Citizen. Well, Loki, I think that's one of the unique things about Starfield. Like, it's procedural in the sense that every playthrough that you do, like, the planets, the systems, like, there's story hero locations that will maintain and persist, but planets and systems are procedurally generated. You know, so going around, you know, the galaxy space is going to be one of those things where it's like, it's going to take a long time to do. But they've also, like, mentioned introducing other systems, you know, like cargo hauling, mining, salvaging, piracy, combat, the side quests, going off and doing your own thing, exploration. Like, if you wanted to look towards, you know, the player behaviors, No Man's Sky is a better indicator of, you know, the retention of players. And, you know, Bethesda games are famous for their modding community as well. So what's there to stop somebody from, you know, creating a mod where they create a comprehensive background economic simulation that you can interact with? Played PlanetSide 2 a few months ago there, Chris, but I'm not going back to it. Like, it's pretty clear that there's, you know, either a lot of cheaters there, or there's been people who just play it so much that they've got all the kit. And competing against them is really difficult. Like, you need upgrades in that game. Which is ironic, because playing, you know, the amount that I've sunk into Star Citizen, it shouldn't be that big of a deal if I was looking at a game like PlanetSide 2, but I don't know, like, playing it last time, I couldn't find the motivation to keep pushing forward. I didn't feel invested in what was going on. Yeah, but that's the thing, Chris, is like, I need to feel invested in what's going on, and if I don't, I'm not interested. It's one of the reasons why I like Star Citizen, is like, you know, becoming a space pirate. Whereas for PlanetSide 2, it's, you know, it's an FPS game with FPS maps, you know, a huge area that you can play FPS in, but you know, it doesn't matter if my side wins or loses. No, like, Loki, I really do hope that CIG is paying attention. I'm pretty confident that they are. You know, what is it? They've now got the Montreal studio spinning up. So they've got Frankfurt, UK, Austin, Texas, LA, and Montreal. That's 5 studios that CIG has. You know, getting their shit together. You know, most of them working on Squadron 42. Hopefully they bang that out real fucking quick, and then just go, alright, it's now Star Citizen. That's it. That's all we're working on. It's Star Citizen. And just push. Even if, you know, like, work out what content that they can put into Star Citizen while they're working out the fucking networking tech. But I'm going to keep tracking Starfield. Like, I'm just going to keep looking into it. I don't think it's going to be the type of game that I'll pick up. I might, but I don't feel like it's the type of game that I'll invest time in playing because of the lack of the multiplayer component. Like, I want the MMO. If that was an MMO, Star Citizen, buddy, I'd just be like, alright, yep. Chris, come grab me when you're done. I'm gonna go play Starfield. Well, as I said before, Dingo, if they do try to go for Squadron 42 directly to Episode 2, I hope somebody's there to throw a chair at them. I really do. Fucking somebody at the CitizenCon, if they announce that, throw a fucking chair at him and tell him, finish Star Citizen first. Anyway, I think it's time that we wrap up the stream. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming along. Having a bit of a whinge, a complain, a bit of a look at, you know, something else. It's interesting times. I am frustrated seeing Starfield and the features that it's got and wondering why we haven't got them in Star Citizen yet. And the only thing that I can put it down to is Squadron 42. They're building 2 games at once. Squadron 42 is in the way. And we need to push Squadron 42 out of the way so that Star Citizen, the game that we all want, can be fucking focused on. And, you know, put Squadron 42 in the background and make Star Citizen the focus, and then just pull features from Star Citizen over to Squadron 42 as they're developed, as opposed to the other way around. But it is what it is. You know, we'll see how this all goes. Time's going to keep moving forward, and we'll get an answer eventually on what's going to happen. But once again, thank you very much, everybody, for coming along for the stream. I have no idea when next week's stream is going to be, or what time it's going to be at. Hopefully, I'll be able to put it out on the Mongrel Squad Guilded server, the public one. I'll get a quick link to that for you all. You'd think I'd actually have this sorted out by now, but you're wrong. Here, share, copy. All right, if you want to come watch the if you want to suggest content for us to react to, or for me to react to on the this stream here, join our public Guilded server, and there's a channel there for reaction and rant suggestions. Throw your suggestions there, and depending on the content, I may or may not react to it. I may or may not rant about it, but there's no harm in suggesting it, because I might. But yeah, since Starfield was the the big thing, I figured I'd throw this up and do a bit of a dive into it and talk about No Starman's Field Sky Citizen, because that's exactly what the situation is right now. Alright, that's it guys from me. Thank you very much. I'll catch you all in the next stream.